So tell me what you think, and this is a great question. Susan, actually, see, she's so smart. What do you think about Obama sending out 3,000 of our guys?
Actually, that's a really good question because I see a lot on the Facebook and a lot on the internet about people saying, what are they going to go do, shoot them? Actually, the United States Army has a very long tradition, first off, of NBC, and they drill that into everybody's how to
what's
deal.
that?
NBC is nuclear, biological, and chemical. Those are the mustard gas, for instance. If you know, Saddam Hussein used them against the Kurds and the Iranians, and they were afraid that we were going to use them against us.
Right.
So they trained us in that, but they've been training that ever since World War I.
Yeah.
So that's where they got the tradition from. But they also have these units that are completely dedicated to it, and in fact, CDC is a lot of United States Army and Marines. So it's not.
What do you mean CDC is a lot?
The CDC.
Because they sound like a bunch of idiots in the CDC right
well,
now.
you're listening to the bureaucrats.
Those are the non-Marines.
Okay.
The bureaucrats, the high level, just like any bureaucracy. Lois Lerner, for instance, from the IRS. They are idiots because they're appointed to that position, and they've been lifelong bureaucrats. They've never done any field time.
They suck, basically.
If you watch the movie Outbreak, that's a pretty good example where who's the lead?
Dustin Hoffman.
Yes, he was a colonel in the United States Army. And then his.
Okay, so tell me again. So they send these guys out. What are they going to do? What do they do there?
They are going to build the infrastructure.
So they're going to build the buildings amidst all this outbreak.
Well, they have a lot of these pop-up buildings. It's not like they're doing brick and mortar. It's an instant pop-up, and then you have to set up the equipment, the medical equipment, which is they had to quarantine the patients. The patient comes in. They have a little tent over the patient, and then you have to put on the equipment, and then there's a whole process of how to decontaminate yourself.
Okay.
So
I heard, because what I heard from it might be misinformation, so you can clear it up for me. I heard that the troops themselves are sleeping in tents. There is no shelter for them over there. There's nothing there. They're living in tents. That they're the actual, like, the suits. They're not even wearing hazmat suits or anything like that. They're using gloves and masks, is what I read from a report. When they go out there, and they're going to build these buildings. So tell me why we can't find a way to have buildings built by those that are there, that we have to send our 3,000. To me, it's idiocy. Why is he doing that?
In a word, political correctness.
Holy moly! I mean, I tell you, I'm so upset about it, and nobody's talking about it. Can you imagine? I mean, mustard gas aside, they've been trained for that, right? All this stuff. What have we done with Ebola?
I'm sure when they go in there, they are trained in Ebola. I'm sure they go training before they go over there. But you never go to war prepared for the war you're going to fight. You always go to war prepared for the last war that you fought.
Okay, well,
when we went into Iraq, we were really well prepared and really well trained to go fight in Vietnam. And then I'm sure the next war we go to, we'll be doing really good against Iraq.
Okay.
So
still, I mean, you find out all these health workers that are coming down with it. They have no idea how. People don't know how they have protection, or at least one or two of them had the protocol protection with the suit and stuff, and still ended up coming.
What should really worry you is Africa is not exactly a safe place, even without Ebola.
Yeah.
But all these guys that are being sent over there, and I know a guy who knows a guy now. They're not going over there with guns. They're going over there completely unarmed.
Come on.
They've got a box that says, only open in case of emergencies, but it's not to be open. But nobody's carrying guns over there, from what I've heard.
Wouldn't want to scare the people with Ebola.
Yeah.
Wouldn't want to scare the Muslims who want to come and take their bodies to take home and infect the rest of their family.
I mean, there might be, the reason might be because they are backwards people. They're really, talk about rule, they're really, really old version where they'd rather go to a witch doctor than see a real doctor.
That's true for many of.
So seeing a bunch of guys with guns might scare them, and then they have
especially if they're over 14.
They tell each other that if they put you in an ambulance, they'll give you an injection that'll make you die, and that's why.
That's
people,
right. They don't go in to the help, right?
And you want to talk about how backwards they are. In a lot of places in Africa, if you contract AIDS or if you have sex with somebody who's got AIDS, the way to get rid of it is to have sex with a virgin.
Oh my God!
That's actually what they believe. Some of them, some places
I believe you're right. I've read the backwardness there is. Why this problem just keeps coming back.
You can get on the internet and you find a lot of the if you like the whole torture things on the internet. I'm sure as kids we all look up, people dying in car accidents, or whatever. But a lot of the things you see, like one time I was just going through videos. I saw there was an execution where they took 2 people who were convicted of some crime, threw them in a pit with a bunch of grass, and set the grass on fire. And that's how they executed them.
Nice country.
Well, that's.
Oh, we don't have to deal with that in New Hampshire yet.
So you think that these 3,000, these men and women that went over there, did they go over there wanting to do this? Do you think that the mindset was that this was a fight, a quote fight that they should be doing, or were they just following orders? I mean, I just can't. I don't know how I would feel, even if I was trained like you said, to go over in there, because what's the mission?
Well, I know when we went to Iraq, all of us wanted to go. We didn't want to go to war. We didn't want to shoot anybody, and we didn't want to die. But we wanted to defend the country.
Right.
So we were ready and willing, and we really wanted to help America, defend America.
Right.
But this, I can't see how this is really defending America.
Right. That's what I don't get.
So I'm sure that if they're going over there, they're going over there with the best of intentions, and they're extremely brave to be doing it.
No kidding.
But I don't see how any of them can be.
You could just close the borders, cost less.
No, you know what? I feel bad for this stuff.
And I'm thinking that the division commanders should be rounding these troops up and marching on the White House.
No kidding. And I've often wondered,
if you've noticed
where
a
are
theme
they?
with Mike.
Well, where
and
are
it's
the
not that he's
commanders?
wrong.
This is not their constitutional duty to go
right.
and perform humanitarian
Absolutely
aid.
right.
And especially put themselves in harm's way for something.
Haven't you seen those awesome commercials about the Navy and how they go help people? Yeah. That's what we're here for.
Oh, it's one thing to go help the Haitians after their hurricane, and go over there.
Well, it's because Bill Clinton was the ambassador.
Yeah. Yep.
And
He wanted to make
George
sure
Bush
all the
was there
women
too.
were okay. He wanted to.
Oh,
All right. About 6 minutes. Let's talk a little bit more about some local stuff here.
Okay. Common Core.
Oh, yippee!
You support it?
No. We need to get rid of it. Have a local control. We can teach our children better than the federal government can.
Yes.
It's a curriculum that's set to help the bottom, the lowest, the bottom rung of the students, to help them so they don't fall behind. But it's keeping the top rung down.
Right.
And it's on a nationwide. So even if you wanted to implement that here in New Hampshire, which is by itself a bad idea, it'd still be better than. I'm sure our students here in our districts are better off than some other districts. So I lower our students to their level.
Right. Well, we want to stop the inquiring minds, and that's what Common Core is good for. Don't go outside the box.
Yeah, don't think outside the box.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you go outside the box, then you become a problem, because you know what? Maybe you'd really want to look at the debatable question in front of you in a different way, and that's what we're not doing. So they're trying to nationalize it.
For those who are for Common Core, I want to ask, if it's so wonderful, why isn't the school that Sasha and Mia, the president's daughters, why aren't they using Common Core?
Sure. Why isn't Hassan's husband's Exeter Academy? The preeminent boarding school, some say, in the world, right? Exeter. They're not touching it.
The public school proponents will say that public school is every bit as good as private school.
You're right.
And yet everybody with any kind of money is always sending their kids to private school.
Yes.
And the charter schools, which are nowhere near as exclusive as Phillips Exeter, don't teach Common Core either.
Yes, they do. Yeah, they do.
They have to, because the way it's written, and I don't know how Phillips Exeter is going to get around this, but
they'll find a way.
They've said that it doesn't matter. You still have to test to the Common Core standards.
Well, that might change, because now Alton, 2 weeks ago, received a waiver from the U.S. Department of Education, because they didn't go to New Hampshire Department of Ed. And it was all over the blog, one of the blogs that I was a member on, a thread. And they sent that letter to the government, and they received a waiver to not do smarter balance assessments, that they were allowed to do the SAT, PSAT, or something. Yeah. So that's a big plus.
SATs and ACTs, I think.
SAT, and which has not yet been fully aligned, which is good for 215.
They'll just change the SAT.
Yeah, they might, but at least it's a start, and it shows how to give a route to just keep fighting and picking away at it. Just keep picking at the scab. I mean, that's all you're left with in the end. Just keep picking away.
I said the other day, if we got rid, even for the Common Core people, if we got rid of the Federal Department of Education, you'd have an extra $300 million in your state to implement Common Core, if that's what you wanted to do.
How about getting rid of the New Hampshire Department of Education?
Yeah, we don't need them either. But anyway, Common Core bad. Common Core bad, because
really
I thought everyday math was bad. Holy crap!
This is worse.
They're geniuses there, right?
Sorry.
Skip wants your headset.
Just take it.
Cough it up, buddy. I don't even know which headset it is anymore. Okay.
That's okay. I just want to point out that absolutely ugly Annie Custer ad against Marilyn Garcia.
That's the one I wrote the blog post about.
Yeah.
Which one?
The one where it's the
teacher
pseudo-teacher in front of the blackboard, where
yeah.
she wants to get rid of the Department of Education. I'm thinking, well, she didn't identify the U.S. or the state one. And, in fact, I think all of us here are in agreement. Let the local school board take care of that. And for the funding, well, if there was no federal Board of Education, as in fact that's what the State Department, U.S. Department of Ed is, all that money would not leave the state, which is one of Steve's main...
I've written about that several times, and I wrote that this week in response to that ad, because I caught the end of it. I said, I've already done the numbers. If you crunch this all out and you get rid of the Department of Education, you'd free up $400 million a day for the rest of the country to spend on education.
Amazing.
New Hampshire's per capita share of that is $295 million a year, which is more than $1 million per school district in New Hampshire. So let me ask you a question. Are you so incompetent that your school board, your parents, and your teachers can't find a way to spend $295 million in the state? You have to send it to D.C.? Yeah. We're not that good. My argument, Democrats think parents and teachers and school boards are stupid.
Yes, they do.
Because there's no other explanation for sending $300 million to D.C. Instead of using it locally.
They honestly do believe that the parents are just vacant, that they can't get the job done. I keep hearing it. No matter what school board you're going to, the proponents of the Common Core always come back with, well, our parents aren't engaged. Or, who's going to teach these children? It just blows my mind that they have this holier-than-thou attitude going on.
So we talk about local control. And
you don't have a lot of time.
Okay, and we want to move it to the local towns. We want to move it to the local state. But before we do that, we have to starve the federal beast. We have to have enough states stand up and say, we're going to stop sending you the money for this department because the department doesn't add any value.
All right, real quick. Robert, how do people reach you?
You can reach me at Facebook, Robert Forsythe for New Hampshire. My phone number, area code 805-708-2665. Facebook probably be the best way. And then my email, docrlf, that's Doc Robert Lewis Forsythe, docrlf at Yahoo.
All right, Bosco on.
And you're a carpetbagger from Utah?
Oh, California.
Oh, okay.
How long have you been here?
So I know what socialism does to a state.
As long as you're legal, you've got all the right policies. Vote Robert Forsythe.
That's right. And as long as you don't claim to be a free stater, the Democrats might not complain too much. All right. Thank you very much for spending some time with us. Those of you on the podcast, I hope you enjoyed your recorded program. My name's Steve McDonald. I am here with Skip Murphy, Mike Rogers, Robert Forsythe, Jane Cormier, and, of course, the lovely Susan Olson. And we'll be back next week with more news, more information, and more Grog Dog.
New Hampshire is famous for scenic drives, but they're tough to enjoy when you're on your way to the doctor. Because Obamacare limits your choices, some will have to drive more than an hour to see a doctor. What's health insurance worth if care isn't there when you need it? Jean Shaheen voted for Obamacare, putting your doctors and hospitals further out of reach. Tell Senator Shaheen Obamacare is not working for New Hampshire.
She tried to make us believe she was a fiscal conservative, but State Senator Nancy Stiles has been deceiving New Hampshire taxpayers. Like a wolf in sheep's clothing, she claimed to be one of us, pretending to blend in, but all along voting like a liberal Democrat. She voted to raise your gas tax by another 23%, taking a bigger bite out of our wallets every time we're at the pump. And oh, how she drooled at the opportunity to vote to expand Obamacare, which will result in higher taxes and longer wait times in the emergency room. And now the Senate wants to pass a bill to prevent us from criticizing Senator Stiles' vote. Call Senator Stiles at 603-918-0553 and tell her that we're on to her wolf in sheep's clothing routine. Tell her to stop pretending to be a fiscal conservative and start voting like one. Paid for by Citizens for a Strong New Hampshire.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.